AIM-listed gold producer Ariana Resources has recently announced that it's received its maiden dividend from a subsidiary amounting to 1.6 million sterling, which it says is a culmination of many years of effort. Also, recently, Ariana says that its gold production guidance for 2020 is around 18,000 ounces of gold, about 30% above its feasibility guidance for this stage of the operational mine life. Well, joining us now on the line from Perth is the Chief Executive, Dr Kerim Sener. Kerim, it's good to catch up with you. I know that you are in Perth on business, although obviously with the corona lockdown means you may be there a little bit longer than perhaps maybe originally anticipated, but it doesn't stop us getting some updated news guidance from you, which is a privilege as we take a look at this most recent news about the maiden dividend being paid into the company's coffers from this subsidiary. Just explain more about what's happened.
Well, very good to join you, Jeremy. Thank you very much for having us. So that's right, £1.6 million maiden dividend has been paid up from our operating subsidiary in Turkey, Galata Madencilik, to Ariana Resources PLC. This represents cash flow generated from the Kızıltepe gold and silver mine in western Turkey, which is part of our joint venture with Prussia Construction. We have obviously been receipt of funds from the JV over the last couple of years in any case, but a large part of that is related to the repayment of intercompany loans between Galata and the JV itself. But this is the first of the dividend streams. And we've had all dividends now paid up for the 2018-2019 period, just prior to the AGM that we held for Zenit Madencilik, the JV company in Turkey, at the very end of March.
Now, I said this money is a sort of an internal move of money in as much as it's come onto the balance sheet. But what's it mean for investors? Do they get any of this as a return in terms of money in the pocket, or is it just a question of the company receiving the benefit?
Correct, the latter. So it's an internal dividend dividend stream between companies. It sets Ariana up in its own right in very good financial strength. In addition, we have significant funds in Turkey as well within the operating subsidiary Galata Madencilik. So we're in a great place to continue current activities in Turkey and indeed beyond, in Cyprus too.
Are these dividends expected to continue, or is that a one-off and now it's sort of ended that part of the relationship?
No, that's right. They will be continuing through the course of this year and indeed beyond. Prior to that, it was largely the repayment of intercompany loans, but now we're seeing more of the dividend payments coming through.
And what's going to be done with the money? How do you see the company benefiting from this extra cash?
Well, it's not so much extra cash, it's just sufficient cash position now for us to continue our operating activities as we'd planned. We have obviously various programs underway in Turkey. The intention is obviously to proceed with those where we can, but of course the situation with coronavirus does raise various concerns about the safety of our employees. So we have to give due consideration to that aspect as well. Likewise, in Cyprus, we are earning into a position within Venus Minerals, a UK registered company, ultimately earning to 50% there. We're planning to undertake drilling in Cyprus as well this year, but again, we're going to take a very close look at the operational restrictions associated with increasing lockdowns associated with coronavirus.
Yeah, I want to get a bit more from you on the coronavirus after I talk a little bit more about this other headline I wanted to discuss with you, and that's the production guidance for 2020, around 18,000 ounces of gold, which, as I said, is about 30% above the feasibility guidance. Clearly, this gives you a very impressive trajectory for the overall business and its production.
It does indeed. We're in great shape operationally. The mine has already been stockpiling significant ore ready for processing. So we're going into what is an uncertain situation in pretty good shape, both financially and operationally. At the mine site itself, we've implemented various measures to ensure the safety of personnel, including spot medical checks, staggered mess hours, maintaining as much distance as possible between employees. So far, there haven't been any reported cases of coronavirus in either on the mine site or in the immediate vicinity. So in that respect, we're still expecting to hit our target for this year.
Yeah, let's bring up a chart of Ariana Resources. Now, I mean, like a lot of companies, you've been in a situation where clearly the outlook has been particularly good up until recent news headlines with coronavirus. What does coronavirus mean for you as a company? Are you having now to shut down parts of the mine?
No, we're not shutting down yet. Obviously, if there were a government instituted order to shut down operations, large heavy industry and other large industrial enterprises, and if mining is included in that, obviously we would comply with the government recommendations. But that has not happened yet in Turkey. In fact, quite the opposite. The expectation is that industry will continue. But this is a changing situation, and there are various uncertainties attached to various forecasts as a result of that. So we are continuing on the mine site as currently planned. There are, other than the restrictions that I've indicated in terms of maintaining an appropriate working environment for all mine employees so they can work safely in the knowledge that we're doing our best to ensure their health. I think that we're in good shape, and we're expecting to continue in this vein for the duration.
Yeah, just want to bring up a chart as well. The price of gold. Clearly, you're selling into a very healthy market. I know you're not a gold analyst and you have no control over the price of gold or indeed your the company's shares. But as a chief executive, what are you hearing in terms of the projections? Presumably, you have to have projections in mind when looking at how the company's performing and your expected targets and so forth. What guidance are you taking on the price of gold?
Yes, well, the feasibility for the Kızıltepe mine was undertaken using a gold price just over $1,300 an ounce. In fact, the open pits themselves were designed at an even lower gold price, $1,054 an ounce. So we had very robust pit designs as a result of that. And with the gold price now just over $1,600 an ounce, it's an excellent position for us to be in. And in terms of our own thoughts as to what will happen with gold, particularly in this environment, and also recognizing that the oil price is at decadal lows. The last time that we were seeing an oil price in this sort of range was in the late 90s and then before that in the late 70s. So it's a very unusual set of conditions. And that does bode well for operating margins, that combination of high gold price and low oil price. In addition to that, obviously, the Turkish lira has continued to devalue in recent years, and the trajectory going forward, particularly in this uncertain environment that we find ourselves in, is really anyone's guess. But the sort of fundamental inputs associated with the economics of the operation, we are in really good condition indeed.
Yeah, just talking about costs, it's interesting actually you mentioned the fact that the price of fuel has come down, which obviously does help. Stripping that out, do other costs rise when the price of gold goes up? I'm thinking about obviously wages as much as anything, but other costs, do you have increased costs that appear through in the profit and loss at the end of the year that you're expecting?
Yeah, we haven't noticed anything specifically. I mean, the main cost obviously is energy. On an operation like ours, and that's either direct energy taken off the Turkish grid to power the ball mill and other equipment in the processing plant, or it's the burning of diesel in the engines associated with the mining fleet. And the mining contract is obviously a significant cost in its own right, and that cost is it is related directly to the cost of fuel. So if we see the cost of fuel go down, there would be a corresponding decrease in the cost of mining. So I wouldn't say that there's any particular item that increases as a result of increasing gold price.
Just one final question, and going back to the share price at 2.78 pence, I think we're up about 4.9% today. Anything that's been priced in that you think the indications, as you say, is 18,000 ounces a year, is that fully priced into prices at the moment on the shares of Ariana?
Well, I think that our price has been strengthening in advance of the concerns associated with coronavirus, and then obviously our share price, like many others, was hit as the potential severity of that became foremost in people's minds. But obviously the market's rebounded, and we take that as a positive sign. That initial reaction may have been overdone, and we've rebounded quite healthily. So there are various factors, no doubt, that are being priced in, but I think that aspect in particular, the uncertainty associated with coronavirus, at least the initial shock of it, has also been priced in.
Okay, look, we'll leave it there. But thanks, Kerim, for joining us from Perth on the line there, and hope you and your family are well during this uncertain
Indeed.
period.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Thank you for joining us. That's Dr. Kerim Sener, Chief Executive of Ariana Resources.